Welcome, welcome to a special edition, an exclusive edition of The Drive. And this is being presented to you by Lucas Rojas, yours truly. And, obviously, I'm here to talk about something that just went down, groundbreaking news that happened about, 2, 3 hours ago this morning. And the news of Tom Brady's suspension being overruled and the fact that he has won the case against Roger Goodell in the NFL and he is no longer suspended, not for one game, not for two. He's not suspended at all now, and he's going to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 1, September 10th, and for the rest of the season. This news comes off as, I don't want to say shocking because something like this was eventually to be expected. I just didn't think that Brady would be overruled or that Roger Goodell's ruling would be overruled, but it was. And Brady has won the case, but the NFL is going to appeal this again because Goodell has made it clear that he's going to appeal, and they're gonna see at court again, and he disagrees. Um, but I'm not surprised by this at all because you knew something like this could eventually happen. You just didn't want to believe it could happen. I know I didn't want to believe it could happen because I gave the NFL a benefit of the doubt and I chose them as the winners here. I really thought that the NFL had good reasoning to do this and that Brady didn't have what it took to fight them out in court for this. Now, I still believe Brady is guilty. I still believe Tom Brady is guilty, but I put this on the NFL. I put this on Roger Goodell for once again failing at court. They didn't go about this the proper, strong manner way that they should have. Um, you know, I don't know what happened at court, but I can tell you right now that the NFL was not strong in fighting this situation, in fighting this case. And Tom Brady took advantage of that. He took advantage of their weaknesses. He took advantage of the flaws in Roger Goodell's defense, and he turned it into a home run. That's basically what happened here. Roger Goodell probably did not come at Brady strong at court, and the reasons for why they served him the suspension were probably not up to par. They weren't the reasons that the court was looking for, that the judge was looking for. They believed that Brady was suspended for the wrong reasons. Now, while they said that the ruling of Brady serving punishment was correct, they felt that Roger Goodell came too strong at Brady and that the reasons for coming to Tom Brady like this were the wrong reasons and not the right reasons. So obviously something went wrong here. I still believe Tom Brady knew about Deflategate. There's no way you can tell me that he's innocent in all of this. It's just the fact that Roger Goodell and his team did not do their part in making sure that this thing was never overruled. And so Tom Brady took advantage of that. That's all I can pretty much say about this situation. It's really pathetic now, where every year almost the NFL is involved in these court cases, and they make a fool out of themselves. You could recall to last year when they suspended Ray Rice for just 2 games for abusing his fiance, and then eventually more video footage came out, and the Baltimore Ravens had to cut Ray Rice for that, and he was suspended indefinitely. So there's a lot of controversy right now surrounding the NFL and Roger Goodell. I don't think it's right the way that the NFL continues to handle these court cases. Clearly, they let Tom Brady walk away with this, and I don't know how it happened, but it happened. I can guarantee to you right now that they probably had Brady suspended for not refusing to take part in the investigation as a primary reason to suspend him, as opposed to the primary reason being the evidence found in him deflating the footballs. So I feel like that's what this was mostly about. Now, while I agree that if you're not taking part of an investigation, you should be punished and you should be found guilty, that shouldn't have been the only reason or the only counter that the NFL was using to defend their case. There should have been more reasoning behind this. Should have been more arguing behind this besides just that. And there should have been evidence found. There should have been more evidence found. It's just that the NFL didn't have it. Or if they had it, they weren't putting it on the table at court strong enough for the judge to believe that Tom Brady is 100% guilty. So this is what it's mostly come down to basically. They were weak in handling this. Their approach was very weak. They probably felt overconfident and didn't pay attention to detail. They thought they were going to win this thing the whole time, and because of that, Brady eventually took matter into his own hands and he fought it out. I felt like Brady was fighting stronger and harder than the NFL was at court because the NFL probably thought they had nothing to lose. But because of that, they let Brady get away with his, and now he's going to be playing football again. So I got to give credit to Brady because he was strong. He kept fighting and fighting. He didn't give up, and he was resilient from the beginning. The NFL eventually, it looks like they got lazy and they let things fall apart. They weren't responsible enough. Now, if had they been responsible, Brady would probably still be suspended right now. And I know I'm probably sounding salty because I probably sound like I'm a Tom Brady hater. By no means am I a Patriots fan, and by no means am I a Patriots hater or a Tom Brady hater. But I go by morals. I go by rights and wrongs. And in this case, I believe Tom Brady is wrong. I believe Tom Brady is guilty, and he's getting away with something that he did. He's getting away with something wrong that he did. That's how I look at it. Um, to me, he's still guilty. I just can't look at Tom Brady and say he's innocent in all of this. But the aftermath of all of this is going to be crazy because, once again, there's going to be that question mark there for the Super Bowl. There's going to be an asterisk written next to Tom Brady's name and the Patriots' name because there's still some people out there that believe Tom Brady and the Patriots cheated to get to the Super Bowl last year. And this is also not good on NFL's part because it ruins the integrity of the game. It damages the integrity of the game. So while I still believe Brady is guilty, like I said, the NFL just didn't do their part as well. They were both wrong. The NFL was wrong in not fighting this as strongly as Brady was. So I think this is just a matter of who fought it out the hardest. I don't think that the ultimate decision by the judge was based off who was really right and who was really wrong. I think he based it off of who fought the hardest, who had more reasons to bring to the table, who was looking to win more, and he just used logic against the ultimate right doing. I feel like that's what this is all about. I feel like the judge used logic as opposed to the real morals in this situation, and Brady was able to clean his hands. That's what I think. I think Tom Brady cleaned his hands, and because he's Tom Brady, he probably used his name and some power that he has at court. And Goodell was probably just sitting there thinking confidently the whole time that this was no way going to be overruled and didn't fight this out strongly. Had he continued suggesting evidence, had he continued showing proof, had he continued fighting and saying that Brady was guilty because of this and this, as opposed to just saying that Brady was guilty because he didn't want to take part of some investigation and not show his phone, that's not strong enough. That's a weak excuse. It's a weak point to make at court. You have to use more evidence to win this, and he didn't. And that's why we're in a situation now where Tom Brady has won and the NFL has lost. And this is something that's always happening with the NFL. You don't hear about this in other sports. You don't hear about this in the MLB. You don't hear about this with the NBA. It's always NFL and these controversial rulings. And they're always the ones making the most noise at this time of the year with these court cases or anything else that happens, whether it's a drug issue, a violence issue, or a cheating issue. The NFL, there's always question marks next to them because every case they make, there's always people questioning it. There's always controversy surrounding it. There can never be a clear-cut decision in which everyone feels is right. There's always going to be people that agree or disagree, and there's always going to be people that think the NFL is right or wrong. And you can't have that. If you're a professional league like the NFL is, if you're a billion-dollar corporation like the NFL is, you should be responsible enough to take matter into your own hands, demand things, and be cut with it and be loose with it, and make sure that it's the official ruling. I'm sorry, but they didn't come down hard enough on this. They were too lenient with letting Brady get away. And they were probably too soft at court. Now, while they came down on Brady with the suspension, that didn't translate into court being strong enough, as they were strong enough to suspend him. So I'm sorry, but to me, this is a lack of responsibility by the NFL, a lack of responsibility on Roger Goodell. And, simply this shows that the NFL is weak when it comes to serving punishment. This is basically what it's all about. So that's pretty much all I can say about this. I still believe Tom Brady is guilty, and by no means am I ever going to defend Tom Brady for this. There's some people saying Brady should have never been suspended to begin with. Well, what do you know? What do you know? What evidence do you have that Tom Brady wasn't guilty? You don't have that evidence, but there is evidence that he didn't want to show the phone, and to me, that's a part of guiltiness coming out of Tom Brady. So that's admission to the fact that he was guilty. But that's not the only thing that makes him guilty. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more other things. It's just that the NFL didn't cover that properly and officially enough and specifically enough at court, and they weren't specific enough with why they were suspending Tom Brady. That's another thing. You don't know if he was really suspended for not showing his phone, or was he really suspended for Deflategate? You don't know. These answers were never clear to us. These answers were never official to us. The NFL is just a mess right now because in these situations, they never make official rulings or decisions. They're never too clear on it. Where the MLB, they're up front. NBA up front with all the decisions they make. But the NFL is always a situation where they make a ruling and it's always questionable. People are still going, what? Why? How? There's always question marks surrounding them. No one ever questions the MLB about stuff. No one ever questions the NBA like this, but they always question the NFL because the NFL has been known for handling situations very weirdly, very oddly, and very differently than the MLB and, the NBA. And I think a lot of it has to do with money and publicity and the fact that the NFL just looks for ways to get things out of their way and make sure it's no longer their problem and it becomes somebody else's problem. The NFL is known for that because they're the top sport in America and they probably want what's best for business. That's how I look at this. So they probably don't care that Tom Brady's suspension was overruled because at the end of the day, it still benefits them. He's still going to be playing on the field, and he's the top player in the league. He's the face of the league. So of course it's going to benefit the NFL if Tom Brady's playing because they're going to get the viewership, they're going to get the ratings, they're going to get the publicity now because of this. But when it comes to the integrity, when it comes to the legacy of the NFL, the reputation and the business aspect of it, behind the scenes and all of that stuff, that's where the NFL is not up to par. That's where the NFL is ruined as far as that's concerned. On the field, yes, it's great for them and all of that, but off the field, this just does not make the NFL look good at all. So that's what I have to say about this whole situation. It's crazy how every situation involving the NFL like this, there's always something fishy going on. Like last year with Ray Rice, how are you going to serve the man 2 games of suspension for domestic violence? And that was a bigger issue than this whole Tom Brady cheating thing. Although you could probably say that this one was bigger of a deal because Tom Brady was a Super Bowl champion and he just came off a Super Bowl win. So this was probably a bigger deal because it involves the Super Bowl. It involves the championship. It involves the integrity of the game, which is probably more important than anything else. So probably this case was bigger in that regard. But domestic violence is just as big because you're talking about discipline here. So, and they gave him 2 games of suspension. The NFL, they've had the opportunity to win so many of these cases, but they go about it the wrong way. They approach it the wrong way, and that's why they end up losing. And that's why these players make them look foolish because management doesn't have authority. They don't have real authority. And that's the problem. They don't have responsibility. They don't have real control. They don't have real authority, real demand. And for that, I don't think people respect the hierarchs up there in the NFL because, they're not respectable enough. They're not strong enough with rulings and demands and things of that nature. So that's what I think about this ultimately. But I don't know. I guess the NFL is going to appeal this and the fight's going to continue. But Roger Goodell, he better come strong like Brady came strong when he was defending himself. And now Roger Goodell has to defend his case stronger. And he probably wouldn't have to be defending anything right now. This could probably all be over with if he had fight from the beginning and not choose to just be cocky and arrogant about this. That's what I have to say, guys. So there you go. That's my point of view. Lucas Rojas. I don't know if my peer Cody Springer is going to come up here and give his take on all of this. But this is an exclusive being brought to you by The Drive on YouTube. Stay tuned for next week, guys. Remember, we're going to have our second show together here on YouTube, The Drive. Stay tuned.